Yep, so we'll start the session right now. So, thank you so much, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming down here today. Today, we have Dalila here from University of Sheffield. Really, really good university. I think you guys all know they're in the Russell Group. So thank you so much for taking your time today to come here for this webinar training. As I said, Sheffield, really good school. And yeah, thank you so much for taking your time to come here. So I promise you guys at the end of this presentation, it'll be really clear to us. Even myself, I'm really excited to know more about this university. I heard a lot about this university from the partners. I think it's a very good university. And personally, I have some friends studying there as well. So it's a very nice thing to do. So through this presentation, we're going to be covering areas like the key selling points, and we're going to know more about how we can actually help send students to Sheffield and what are the right students, most importantly, to send over there. So I'm very happy to share with you guys to invite Dalila here, who is in charge in the University of Sheffield. So she's of course in charge of areas like Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei as well, she had mentioned earlier. So I will include her profile in the chat box shortly. And as I said before, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A session down there. And then we will go through all the questions one by one at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you, Dalila. Thank you so much. And nice to meet everyone again here.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Russell, for organizing this session, and thank you to everyone for taking your time this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are all in the best of health. My name is Dalila. I'm one of the 4 team members of the Southeast Asia office. So basically, the University of Sheffield has a regional office based in Kuala Lumpur, just by the Damansara Heights MRT station. And I think we have been in Malaysia for slightly over 20 years. And yeah, we are basically kind of like the main point of contact for any inquiries from applicants applying from Malaysia as well as some countries in this region. So let me just share my screen. Just put up my slides. Don't be surprised that there are about 70 slides here. Some of them will just take less than 1 minute to go through. So I'll aim to finish within 45 to 50 minutes top. How do I remove this? Just bear with me. Oh, yeah, I should just minimize that. I should go to the first slide. Okay, all right. So yes. For the briefing today, I will cover a little bit of overview about the university. I'll also introduce you to the campus, to the city, to some of the application processes, as well as some other general information about studying at the University of Sheffield. So let's first just have a look at the first overview of the university. And basically, we kind of like use these points as well when we tell students about why I choose the University of Sheffield. So in short, kind of like to pitch our university, we always say that it's a Russell Group university with a top-rated student experience. So yes, we are a member of the prestigious Russell Group universities, basically the research-intensive universities. I think there are about 24 of them, and we are one of them. And because we are a research-led university, the latest Research Excellence Framework assessment done in 2021 meant a lot to us because from that assessment, it was found that 92% of our research has been rated in the top 2 categories, as in to say rated as world-leading or internationally excellent. And those categories kind of like measure the impact of the research that the impact of the research has on the changing lives, influencing policies, and making lives better. So apart from our ranking in research, from the latest QS World Top University rankings that have just been announced, I think just last week, we are ranked 104th in the world and 18 in the UK. So we are a top 20 UK university. I mentioned just now that it's a Russell Group university known with a top rated student experience, and that's because our Students' Union, which is a center of students' life in the UK, our Students' Union has been rated #1 in the UK for many years running. It dated back to, I think, 2010 with a different kind of ranking, and now that ranking doesn't exist anymore, replaced by the What Uni Student Choice Awards. And for the What Uni Student Choice Awards itself, we have been the best in the UK for like since 2017, so that's like 6-7 years already. And it's not just about ranking of the university, not also just about the best student experience, but also about how our students find the employability support like at the university. And according to the latest High Flyers Graduate Market Survey 2023, our university was found to be top 20 university targeted by graduate employers. And our career service has been found to be very helpful when providing support to our students, and they have been voted as top 5 career service in the UK. The university is the first in the North for graduate prospects, according to Sunday Times Good University Guide 2021. We have a long history of welcoming students from all over the world to Sheffield. It's a very diverse community, I would say, in terms of the program of study, in terms of the nationality and level of study as well. Out of 30,000 students we have, close to 30,000 students that we have, 30% of it are internationals coming from about 140 to 150 countries. So there are many student societies to join, and to name some of the cultural societies available at the University of Sheffield. You can see the logos I have included on my slide here. But the main one for the Malaysian student societies, there are actually two. There's MESOC, which stands for Malaysian and Singaporean Student Society, and there's also the Sheffield Malaysian Students Association, SAMSA. The two always work together. For example, like I think next weekend, they will be having their own pre-departure briefing for current offer holders. And in August, they will also hold another one for current offer holders. So yeah, they have been very active as well from before the applicants come to the university, as well as during the study as well. So yeah. There are also a lot of like international restaurants, shops, and supermarkets in Sheffield. So let's say, when Malaysian students are there, they can easily find ingredients back from home as well. So yeah. We are passionate about teaching excellence. So we have recap about research ranking, student experience ranking, as well as employability ranking. But when it comes to teaching ranking, you may want to refer to the Times University Guide ranking, and they have rated us as top 20 in the UK in terms of teaching. And that's because of our academic staff are made up of a lineup of world-renowned scientists, thought leading experts, and technical innovators. And according to the Times Higher Education 2019, there was the first kind of like teaching rankings they did with the European universities. And I think we were rated about, we were ranked about 25 out of 250 countries, something like that. So a very good teaching ranking as well in that Times Higher Education survey. We have 50 departments across 5 faculties. So there are science, engineering, medicine, dentistry, and health, arts and humanities, and social sciences. And within each faculty, there are a number of departments under them. Over here, I've just listed those that I find, like usually relevant or popular for Malaysian students, as you can see here. But really, there are more than just what listed here, because we have 50. You can find full information about this, of course, on our online course prospectus. Nowadays, that's the best resource to refer to when it comes to referring to what kind of course is available, what course is still open, entry requirements, as well as how to apply. So yeah. Here is just some of the subjects that have been ranked top 10 and top 20 in the UK according to the QS Subject Rankings 2023 that was published in March this year. So you can see here we do have quite a lot of subjects within top 10 and top 20, and that really kind of like cover most of the courses that Malaysian students seek. So yeah, but I mean, if you would like to know more about the ranking, best to refer to the QS webpage. You'll be able to see there the exact ranking of each subject. And also in terms of the subject satisfaction survey, according to the National Student Survey 2022, it was found that 78% our university scored 78% in terms of overall student satisfaction, and that is actually 2% higher than sector average. And from that survey, it was found that there are about 11 subjects that have been rated first in the RASA group and 21 subjects that have been rated top 5 in the RASA group. And it's not just our engineering subjects, but it also has other subjects such as computer science, economics, and other courses available. So yeah, we offer outstanding student experience. There are about 300 clubs and societies for students to explore during their study. We also have sports facilities and to get an idea about how much gym membership could cost for a year. In Sheffield, that could be just slightly over £300 for that one whole year of gym membership, just for information. So why Sheffield as a city? It is located very central in the UK. It's in North England, just about 1 hour, 10 minutes from Manchester Airport. So usually when we ask students to consider flying to the UK, we tell them it's better to fly to Manchester Airport because of the convenience, and it will just take less than 2 hours to get to Sheffield. It's okay to arrive in London as well. They can just take trains, and that will take them just about 2 hours to reach Sheffield. These are the highlights of the city. Basically, it's a vibrant and modern city in the heart of the UK. It is not by the countryside, but we do offer best of both worlds because city centre is just close by to the campus, and about 15 minutes train ride away, they will reach the suburban area as well. So it's a rich city that is rich with cultural heritage, and in fact it's considered like a hub of a thriving contemporary arts and music scene outside London. And it's the greenest city in the UK, and not just that, I think it's also the greenest city in Europe. So when you're there, you'll be able to see, mix of like modern red brick buildings at the same time, the greenery is still there. Well-connected city. Most of the times, if you are on campus, you'll just be, walking around. There's not a need to kind of like use a lot of public transportation, which I think kind of like explains the next point of the city's highlight, which is one of the most affordable student city in the UK. So yeah, and there are about coming close to 600,000 people, and I think that's why we are considered like the 5th largest city because of the population. And out of that numbers, about 60,000 students, 60,000 are students. So there are like 10% of the population are students. And I guess that's why Sheffield is known also as a student city. There is us, the University of Sheffield, and also Sheffield Hallam in the city center itself. So yeah. It's a friendly and affordable UK city with lots of things to see and do, lots of parks and gardens because it's one of the greenest city. And then, as mentioned, just about 50 minutes train ride away, you can explore the suburban area and also the Peak District, because part of the city is located in the national park called Peak District. And close to Peak District as well, there is the Chatsworth House, which has been used as the filming location for the Pride and Prejudice movie. And there are lots of museums, galleries, and theaters as well to visit. If you're into these kind of things, there you will find yourself having plenty of activities to do throughout the year because exhibitions, keep changing throughout the year. So there are always plenty of things to explore. And if you're someone who loves shopping in a mall, we do have a mall in the city, just at the end of the tram line. So again, well connected, and used to be one of the biggest shopping mall in the region as well. And on the way to that mall, there's also IKEA. So students usually go to the IKEA when they first arrive to get all of their supplies. Yeah, and like cutleries and everything. So yeah. So we even publish like a guide to the city on our university webpage. So if you've got students who like to know more about the city, feel free to share with them just this website, and they'll be able to explore what kind of things they can do when they study at the University of Sheffield and in Sheffield itself. So yeah. So a little bit information about our campus. Yeah, so the points that we use when we tell students about the city campus is that it's a city campus, which means to say it's not really a campus-based university, it's a city university. So the campus is kind of like open area with our university buildings scattered across those areas, and in close vicinity to the city center. So even though the city is like, the 5th largest in the UK, however, the campus site itself is a close-knit community, which is why when you walk from one end of the campus to the other end of the campus, it can take you just about 45 minutes to walk. So that's why some of students will feel that, oh, it's not really that big, but it's actually one of the major city in the UK. Yeah, it's well connected because there are, network of public buses, city buses, and it's also connected by tram networks across the city center as well as into the center part of the city campus. And train station where students will be arriving at when they take train from the Manchester airport. It's just about 15 to 20 minutes walk across the city center, but of course it's also connected with the tram network, and they can also get a taxi and buses to the railway station. So just wanted to show you kind of like how it looks like at the tram stop. It's just by the road. The tram runs on the street as well, just with other cars. So there's a tram stop named the University of Sheffield on the Upper Hanover Street. This is about short walk from most of the buildings on the campus, and I think just about 10 minutes walk from the Students' Union itself. So very central on the campus. And there's a direct tram from the railway station to the University of Sheffield on the blue route here. As you can see, if you take a tram from, this train station here on the blue route, you can reach to the University of Sheffield tram stop. And I mentioned just now there's a mall. So mall can be, you can go to the mall by getting off at the Meadowhall interchange here. There's where the coach bus is. So if you like to take coach, for example, to go to other cities, that's where you go to. And I mentioned also there's an IKEA on the way to the mall. So yeah, for the city center, of course, it's just within walking distance, less than 10 minutes. But if you've got lots of stuff to carry, then there's the city hall stop where you can get off at if you like to go to the city center. So yeah, we do have an interactive map web page, and we also have published a YouTube video of the aerial tour of the university campus. So feel free to share this with your students so that they can, kind of like get a feeling of how big it is to get from one place to another. And I think it also kind of like shows how beautiful it is, the city. So yeah. In terms of accommodation, of course, students will have the choice to go for university accommodation. And because we are not campus-based, the university-owned accommodation are located in 3 locations. We do have city accommodation, we have Ramor and Enclave students accommodation as well. But we call this site as student villages because it's like, cluster of flats and apartments within one area, and they have like a one central kind of like hub for them to do laundry, and there's cafe and restaurant there as well. So it really feels like a student village kind of like environment. So we have more units over there. There are like about 4,500 units over there as compared to the city accommodation, which has just about 1,500 units. So from the amount, you will feel that, oh, you mentioned just now you've got about 30,000 students, but the number of university accommodations available not enough. That's fine, because Sheffield itself has abundance of, student purpose-built accommodation. And even though they are private, it can still be located quite close to their departments, just because we are city campus, we're not campus based. So yeah, and private accommodation also can offer good competitive rate according to the need, but most of the time it's worth to note that the private accommodation rent don't usually I think cover security and maintenance, which kind of like explains why for certain types of rooms you find that the university accommodation is just slightly a little bit more costs a little bit more than the private accommodation. So my usual kind of like advice to students, if it's their first year in Sheffield, try and explore university accommodation first so that they know where they can go to if they face any issues. They will have residential mentor within the university accommodation, so they will always have someone to talk to, and also just so that it gives them time to kind of like settle in and get to know the environment and the surrounding first. And once they get familiar with the city, they can always explore private accommodation afterwards. For students at undergraduate level, if they have firmed their offer, they can already apply for accommodation, usually from March, because that's when accommodation application opens in March. And for postgraduate students, they need to have unconditional accept offers before they can apply for the accommodation. The university accommodation rent prices usually include gas, electricity, and water bills, and it allows students to get access to residence life, free events, and activity programs. I mentioned just now that Students' Union has been rated integrated for many years running, and that's not just because students find that the Students' Union representative represents their voices well, but also because it's really like a one-stop center for any kind of matters you may have as a student. So we do have that one-stop inquiry desk as SID. So basically during the application, if the applicant is at applicant status, of course, their first point of contact will be us at the Southeast Asia office. But afterwards, when they have become a student, registered as a student at the University of Sheffield, then the responsibility transferred to the SSID. So they can just pop by to inquire, or they can also get this access online via their university portal. There are plenty of shops and cafes for students to explore. If you've got like students who have specific dietary need, then usually they can find that catered as well at some of the cafes and restaurants within the Students' Union. So it's very inclusive and diverse in our Students' Union. And there's also the Central Career Service, but essentially each department will have their own career service staff as well for them to inquire about employability and get support with employability aspects. And I think one thing nice about our Students' Union is that they offer the Give It a Go scheme. So this is like a pay and play basis. So it's like if you don't feel like being committed to just one club, or you just don't know what kind of club you want to get into, I mean, it's so hard to choose, then you can just go for it, give it a go, see what kind of activities are being advertised that week, that term, for example, by dropping by the Students' Union desk, and when you purchase the ticket, you get access to that activity. So you can always try out any kind of activities that are available. So yeah. For libraries, we do have a couple more than two, but the main one will be these two shown on the slide here. The Western Bank Library is more catered for silent study for research students, but of course everyone can still use it. And the information commons are usually popular among undergraduate and postgraduate thought students. Because they can book for study spaces, they can book for discussion room, and also because we do have plenty of shower rooms. So, when it's busy time for assignment, they have to burn midnight oil and everything, they can just shower at the library without the need to go back to their room. But of course, they have access to the library online as well. And in 2015, we opened up this teaching facility called the Diamond. It's mainly for teaching and lab practicals for engineering students. But in terms of the study spaces, it's available for students outside engineering faculty as well. So when this was open, it was one of its kind because it allows engineering practical labs teaching to be done alongside the lab practicals itself. So yeah, I think many students really like these facilities, and also because we have that student-led makerspace called iForge. Now I know that a lot of other universities have, their own kind of like mechanical workshops as well. But the nice thing about ours is that it opens 24 hours, 7 days a week, and students can just book the session anytime they would like to be using the equipments, so long they have undergone the induction period, so they can use the equipments on their own. So, when you are an engineering student, there are just a lot of things that you want to build and forge. So you'll be doing that in the iForge. But it's not just limited to engineering students. Other students outside engineering faculty can also be using it, so long they undergo the induction. And engineering space was kind of like the latest addition to our engineering faculty. It is mainly for employability hub. So when with the study of engineering at undergraduate level, we do offer the option to undertake the industrial placement year. So when it comes to like the employer talks, career fair, meeting with the industrial placements employability team, that will be mainly done within this space, the engineering hub space. And it actually won quite a couple of awards for the nice design that it has. And we'll be having the newest facility on campus opening this September. So very happy about this. It will be mainly for the Faculty of Social Sciences. So now we have had, like facilities for engineering. Now it's the time for social sciences to have their new building as well. Within this building, the interdisciplinary social sciences research team will be based in here, including some other departments such as the Information School, Journalism Studies, School of Education, Sheffield Methods Institute, as well as the Sociological Studies. So let's say, for example, if students are studying data science, or let's say if they are studying journalism, or what else? Like sociology or digital media and society, then they will be based here in the Faculty of Social Sciences new building. Sorry, I forgot to include the name, but it will be called The Wave. Sport Sheffield. Sport facilities, we do have that within the campus itself. Great facilities for our students to use, and there are also courts for students to play, footballs or badminton, squash. We do have that on campus as well for anyone who are into sports. So a bit of information about the fees, and later on will be about living costs as well as scholarships. So for the undergraduate tuition fees, we already have an indicative amount for the tuition fees for next year intake, September. We only have one intake every year, by the way, which is in September. So the amount published here will be for the 2024. However, please just use this as a guidance for now. You will find that this information has not yet been included on the online course prospectus because it's yet to be confirmed, but this would be roughly how it could be for the annual tuition fee for the undergraduate study, and it is more according to the faculty where the program will be delivered under. So for example, like if it's arts and humanities such as English, archaeology, music, they can range between £22,680 to £25,540, and science and engineering usually is a little bit higher than that. That's about £29,110, as well as architecture, that is about the same rate as science and engineering each year. We don't have the amount yet for medicine dentistry, but this year it already costs about £42,770. So I would think that will be more than that for next year intake. For social sciences like law, business, urban studies, economics, and many others, that could range between £22,680 to £25,540. For postgraduate thought, we don't have the fees yet for next year, but the best way to find out would be when the online course prospectus for next year gets published around, I think, October, November this year. So it'll be much later for postgraduate thought. But the idea is that you can always find the fees amount on the online course prospectus. For undergraduate, we don't offer we don't issue offer letter. Offer letter would just be the one under the UCAS hub. So for undergraduate, they will find that the offer letter within the UCAS hub doesn't state the tuition fee, but they can usually get this at the CAS stage. Whereas for postgraduate thought and postgraduate research, when they receive an offer letter from us, it will usually state the amount of the fees for their academic year. So yeah. For living expenses, of course, at the moment, we still follow the one estimated by the UKVI. So that is about £1,023 for a month for any cities outside London. So now we do kind of like suggest the breakdown of the expenses, but of course it really depends on the student's usage. But they can estimate, let's say, if they go for standard ensuite single room at the university accommodation, they'll be spending roughly about £650 for their monthly rent. And as mentioned earlier, it is already inclusive of utility bills, Wi-Fi, and security maintenance. So the rest will go in towards, spending for food, mobile phone credit, and others like stationeries, maybe clothing, maybe. So we do quote £100 for transportation, but it is not quite necessarily needed. Because as mentioned, most of the time you'll be walking around. It could take just about 10 minutes to reach certain places, or maybe at top will be just about 30 minutes, But so that transportation cost is usually valid or applicable if they are taking train, let's say, to visit other cities. But when you are just in Sheffield for that 1 month, you won't be using that £100 for public transportation. Because, for example, like city buses, they do have like discount for students who are able to show their university card, and that would just cost students £1.20p per ride. So yeah, and they can even buy bus passes, which could cost just about, if I'm not mistaken, £50 or less, something like that. So yeah, for a monthly bus pass. So yeah, if they ever need one. For rent prices for the university accommodation, of course, you can find this on our accommodation webpage. But the idea in terms of the contract is that we have two kinds. We have the 42-week contract, 51-week contract. Basically, 42-week contracts mainly for undergraduate students, and 51-week contract mainly reserved for postgraduate students because of the duration of the study, because undergraduate would last just about 9 months. For summer, it's up to them whether they want to stay. If they're staying, then they have to rebook their accommodation for summer. But if they're going back, then they will be saving up on their living expenses and everything. And for postgraduate study, normally the academic year would last for 12 months solid. So yeah. For scholarships, we don't have the information yet for next year, just like fees, usually fees and scholarships, as well as some course information and listing, right? They will be announced later this year, usually around end of October, coming close to mid-November, usually. But if, let's say, the offer for scholarships next year stays the same like this year, then what you can anticipate is that for undergraduate and postgraduate thought, we have 2 categories each. So for both, we do have the merit scholarships at undergraduate level. This is worth 50% of the tuition fee discount. But there are only 75 awards available internationally, whereas at postgraduate thought level, there are 125 awards, so more awards than undergraduate, but lesser discount worth 25% of the tuition fee. And each merit scholarship will have its own deadline. So for like undergraduate this year, it was on 24th April, and postgraduate thought it was on 15th of May, and then we'll usually announce a couple of weeks afterwards. The idea is that, for the scholarships, they have to get an offer first before they can apply for these merit scholarships. They will have to write an essay. So if you refer to the merit selection criteria at the bottom of the slide there, the third point, you will find that we will look at academic profile, which is usually indicated by the GPA that the students have. And from the essay, we will look at the rationale of why they are applying to that course at Sheffield, and whether or not students have a clear future ambitions, like when they have already obtained qualification from Sheffield, how do they think, how will they be using that qualification to kind of like achieve their ambitions? So yeah, so those are the criteria that we'll be looking at when selecting winners. If they don't win the merit scholarship, then usually we have this alternative award called international scholarships. No separate application is needed, but they must accept their offer by a certain deadline. At undergraduate level at the moment for this year, for example, they can accept the offer either by firm, either as a firm or as an insurance, so long they accept our offer by 8th of June for undergraduate and 16th of June for postgraduate thought. So we would think that something similar could be offered next year, but just refer back to the scholarships webpage for more accurate details when this is announced later. So about the key dates, as I mentioned earlier, we only have one intake each year for undergraduate and postgraduate thought program. That is in September. This year, for example, our intake starts on 25th of September. So this will be what is stated on the offer letter. Academic year is split into 2 terms. There are autumn terms and spring terms. And within each term, they will have some holidays, 4 weeks of Christmas holidays, 3 weeks of Easter holidays. But when you apply CAS for your students, you will notice that the start date on CAS will state as 11 September instead of 25th September. And that is because we just want students to be able to attend the intro week, which is 1 week before the start date, the actual teaching start date, and also the orientation week, which is usually 2 weeks before the actual teaching start date. So which is why we state on CAS that the start date is on 11th of September. The orientation week, which starts on 11 September this year until 15th of September, is just optional. So it's up to the students if they want to be joining them. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to be offered both online and physical. But one thing they need to note usually is that if they book for university accommodation, usually the contract doesn't cover orientation week. So if they are booking for to attend some of the orientation week programs, they will need to book for an orientation accommodation separately. For the intro week, it is compulsory because by right, that will be the week when students should actually complete their in-person registration. In-person registration includes checking their visa, giving them their university card, and giving them their biometric residence permit card. So they should attend their registration appointment during that intro week. And most departments will usually also hold kind of like induction week for students to, get familiarized, get introduced to their departments and their point of contact. So yeah. So when applying for undergraduate, of course, we'll follow the UCAS deadlines. So for medicine dentistry, then that would be in October, a year before the admissions. And a lot of the courses this year, for example, closed after the equal consideration deadline in January. So yeah, the idea is that if you have applicants who have inquired you earlier, you then always push them to submit by the January equal consideration deadline, because we'll never know when courses will be closed after that deadline. Some examples of the courses that have been closed after the equal consideration deadline this year are computer science, mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, biomedical science as well. So yeah, and also speech language therapy. So yeah. So today is actually the day where we will be starting our clearing. So the idea is that courses with vacancies will be published on the university webpage later today. So if you have students who are interested to pursue this intake but haven't applied before, and they already have their grades, then they can actually explore the vacancies on our clearing webpage. And when they find the course that they want to do and confirm that they meet the entry requirements, then they can just straight away put it in the UCAS clearing portal. But if they are still waiting for their, for example, A-level results in August, then they will just need to advance register on our clearing webpage first, so that when their A-level results come out in August, they will be in line to be contacted by our admissions team to confirm whether or not we can make them an offer. So yeah. For postgraduate thought, application, basically we do have like a standard advisory key dates and deadlines. But the idea is that for this intake, the last date to apply would be on 28th of August. And we advise students to apply for their class by 4th of September. For postgraduate top programs, so just now I have just shown you the standard advisory deadlines, but in actual, for postgraduate top programs, there are like 4 types of deadlines applicable. The general one will follow the standard advisory key deadlines. There's also the course-specific one. If it's course-specific, you can actually confirm that on the course prospectus itself. For example, like this one, this is for speech therapy, for example. There's also stage admissions. Stage admissions simply means that there are a series of applications deadlines throughout the year. As you can see here, this will be how it will be shown on the course web page. There's also the equal consideration deadline for postgraduate top program. This is just like how you cast equal consideration deadline work. So it's like course will close if it's full after that deadline, but so long if it's not, then it will be open. So yeah. So stage admissions applies to a number of courses listed here. You will see that most of these courses, they are actually the ones that are very popular among students internationally. So that's why we do kind of like implement this stage admissions procedure. The idea is that if you apply by certain deadline, as listed on the left, students will receive the decision after that deadline, and by the decision deadline in the middle, there's no option to expedite processing because we want to ensure fairness and competitiveness of the program. And if students receive offer, even if their offer is conditional, they will need to pay fee deposit by the deadline stated on the right here. Basically, students should read their offer letter thoroughly because it will be mentioned there if there is any specific tuition fee deposit deadline. And this is applicable to postgraduate taught courses because they need to pay for the fee deposit if they want to accept your offer. So yeah. If your student is applying for external funding, such as, let's say, MARA, JPA, Gamuda, whatever there are out there, they need to specify this in their application form. They also need to provide evidence of the scholarship application as well as the deadline of the scholarship, or as well as the date by when they will be finding out the results outcome of their scholarship application. This is so that for any courses that require tuition fee deposit deadline, for any courses that require tuition fee deposit and has a deadline, they can request for tuition fee deadline extension. When students have already secured sponsorship, they don't have to pay the tuition fee deposit, but they can ask for a waiver by providing an official sponsor letter. So yeah. So in terms of how to apply, undergraduate will just need to be via UCAS as usual. These are the entry requirements we have published on our website. Basically, we do accept quite a wide range of international qualifications. The usual one would be from Malaysia, are all those stated here. Of course, the standard one will always be the A-level, and you can find these equivalents on our website. For other non-international qualification, specifically from Malaysia, we do accept UEC, matriculation, and STPM. Again, you'll be able to find the requirements here stated on our webpage. But for other courses such as diploma and foundation, including MOFI, Monash University Foundation year, for those qualifications, we consider case by case. Case by case simply means that we need to review the course syllabus, not just the course outline, but also kind of like detailed description of the modules, how is the assessment, how's the grading like. So those kind of information need to be submitted alongside the application as well, so that the admissions can determine whether or not it's sufficient for entry to the University of Sheffield. For the diploma, we can consider either year 1 or year 2 entry, but not all courses are open for year 2 entry. For example, this year, accounting, business, economics, politics, journalism, biomedical sciences, all the biosciences, they are not open for year 2 entry. But for other courses not mentioned, usually we can consider, but of course, it will always be case by case. Postgraduate taught application will need to be via Yes Education Agent portal. So just simply liaise with them for the application. You'll be able to find guidance on providing the supporting documents on the web page. Basically, we just need a minimum GPA 3 out of 4 from bachelor degree in Malaysia. Same goes to the PhD as well. We just need a minimum GPA 3 out of 4 from the master's equivalent to enter PhD program. And they will be expected to meet some English language requirements as well. And this is usually IELTS. Different courses require different level of IELTS. Better to refer to the online course prospectus, but we also accept other acceptable qualifications such as the IGCSE English, IB English, A-level English, as well as PTE Academic and TOEFL IBT. For IGCSE, different syllabuses, different requirements. So for example, if they are taking 0500, they must have taken the speaking listening components. If they have not taken the speaking listening components, we need them to take IELTS. Same goes to 0510 as well. And other than that, we do accept SPM English. So basically anyone who have taken SPM English in the year 2020 or before, we will need them to be able to show their 1119 certificate. And so long as graded minimum C and not dated more than 5 years from the study at Sheffield. However, if it's 2021 and above, I'm aware they don't use 1119 anymore, but we are not referring to their CEFR either, but we will just look at their overall SPM English grade. It must be graded at least B+ or above. So now from 2021 and after, the SPM certificate is no longer in English, as Indus is no longer bilingual. So we need the official translation to be provided as well alongside the original. Sorry, I forgot to mention. There's also guidance on our webpage when it comes to getting official translation of documents into English. For the comparison of the different English language tests, you can find the equivalents again on our website as well. So if students are taking PTE Academic, for example, we will have to refer to the equivalent score needed for the course in equivalent to IELTS. Within the PG portal, that's why you can update application, accept and decline offer, as well as request deferral. However, for stage admissions, postgraduate taught master courses, you cannot request for deferral. So applicants will need to reapply if they are still interested in the next year. For deferral process for postgraduate taught program, for those non-stage admissions courses, they can request for the deferral, but the deferred offer letter will not be issued within this year, within this admissions year, because we need to wait until the new admissions year open, usually in September, before admissions can issue a new offer. And another reason is that because before the new admissions year begins, we cannot confirm the admissions policy for that course, whether or not it will be offered next year, which is why we cannot process the deferral letter before the new admissions year begin. So if you have submitted applications via UCAS, as well as for any PG applications that they are not submitted via agent portal, let's say because your students apply themselves and then afterwards only seeking your services, you will need to fill up our own our version of the agent authority form. We need every relevant section to be completed, and we need the student to sign themselves the form, and we also need your declaration, but the agent declaration must come from ES Education, and this must be submitted to us as EAO. So after students have held an offer, they'll get access to the offer holders portal called Muse. This is where they apply for accommodation, for scholarships, as well as apply for their, complete their pre-registration and CAS application. So this is just an overview of how it looks like. This year we have already begun our pre-registration and CAS application, and it started on 1st of June. So if you have any unconditional accept offer holders, they should have begun their pre-registration and CAS application process. This is just how it looks like for CAS application. For postgraduate taught master student, they must have paid the fee deposit, usually worth £1,000, before they can begin the CAS application. And at our university, CAS application doesn't begin automatically. They have to click to activate the CAS so that the procedure can begin for them. If students don't meet the direct entry requirement, they can explore our pathway program provided by the study group. We have our own international college in Sheffield. But to know more about this information, your point of contact will be Iona at the study group. Iona is Sheffield specialist, so she can advise you about anything about applying to the study group pathway program at University of Sheffield International College. So yeah. So when students have come to the University of Sheffield, what are the kind of excellent support services we are able to provide them? That would be the SSID I mentioned earlier. SSID also has the International Student Support Team, where you can get connected to the expert visa team. So if you have students who are yet to go also, but you have questions about the visa application, you can actually contact the visa advisor directly on their live chat. We also offer usually meet and greet airport pickup service from Manchester Airport, but students will need to subscribe for it and pay some fee. There's also career support that we give to students during their study. And these are the range of opportunities students can, explore during their study. They'll have access to the Career Connect, which is basically the job database. There's also a listing of part-time jobs if they are interested. And we also are able to kind of like give advice about international work via our Going Global database. So there's really, plenty of opportunities for students to explore. There's also support for English language as well as math and statistics, and also the academic writing. So if students need these, they can just pop by the English Language Teaching Center or the 301 Academic Skill Center for those kind of supports. So that's it in terms of explore what you or your students can do to explore further after this. Your students can chat with our student ambassadors. We do have a couple of Malaysian students there who will be able to tell them more about the courses or about life in Sheffield. There's also the virtual experience hub where you can actually have a look at the 360-degree tour of the facilities, and also some of the departments upload on-demand videos there, so you can share that with your student. And we run weekly event on Wednesday with a lot of sessions on that covers information about life in Sheffield. For example, next week, Wednesday, we'll be having our first pre-departure briefing. And there's also the virtual tour hub where you can explore the campus, the city, the Students' Union, and the green spaces. So that's all. If your students, let's say after you have counseled them and they still wish to speak to us at the university, you can actually refer them to book an appointment directly with me on my Calendly booking link. So yeah. So thank you. I'll be happy to take on any questions you have.
Thank you, Dalila. That was great. So, I mean, just to recap on some things that I personally have written down, I think Sheffield's a really good university. Of course, they are in the Russell Group. Not many universities are inside there. I mean, they have many top ranking subjects in the QS, and not just that, they're in a very, very good city to study in, it's very affordable and it's connected to the old, the new. But of course, we have to remember as well, there's only a September intake. And if you're talking about the living expenses in Sheffield, it's around, I recall in the slides, it was about £1,000, correct, Dalila?
Yeah, per month, yes.
So I'm guessing even for students itself, if they work part-time, they will likely be able to pay off quite an amount of their cost of living as well.
Yeah, as far as I've been informed by our career service, if students really use up their amount of allowance they can for the part-time work, 20 hours per week, and basically they get paid the rate that they are eligible for, right? So they can actually accumulate about £200 per month for the pocket money.
So actually it's it's actually a very good place in the end. And I think also because you're in the city center, so it won't be too difficult itself to find a part-time job as well, because lots of opportunities over there straight away already.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. And I think not to mention also, as you mentioned, there are scholarships as well. So I think it's a very good place to study. So we're going to open the floor right now to anyone. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And then Dalila, I'm pretty sure you'll be more than happy to answer any questions. So with any questions, Dalila, maybe you can share with us like one or two of the best unique selling points towards why students should choose Sheffield? One of the best selling points you can think of, maybe.
Okay, the best selling points. Usually, okay, if you're not really talking about ranking, right? Because
Yep.
I mean, ranking could be the same everywhere also.
True.
But yeah, it really is just about the student experience, which is why I've highlighted that at the very first page of the slide just now. Basically, a lot of students who have graduated from Sheffield, they'll be very happy. Yeah, a lot of the times we also get our alumni word of mouth to, you know, travel across the community. So yeah, it's really just about the student experience. I mean, you will feel that it's not really a big city, but
Okay.
that could also means that any students wouldn't feel that how do I say, intimidating when they first arrive in Sheffield. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important for students to feel warmly welcome, especially if they're
Yes.
traveling so far for Malaysian students. I think as you can mention also in throughout the site, there's a lot of actually support for the students itself, even before they arrive, when they arrive, and even after they're done with their studies, which is actually really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have one question. Just checking, when is the deadline to accept an offer for this September's 2023 intake?
Okay, it depends. If it's undergraduate program, then by right, the UCAS will state the deadline by when students will need to accept the offer, because I think there are like two kinds of deadlines. Because those applying by the January equal consideration deadline, and if they get an offer by, if I'm not mistaken, in March or something, then they have to accept, sorry, by May, then they have to accept the offer by June. And if they apply afterwards and get their offer by, I think by June, then they will have to accept the offer by July. So yeah, really it depends what's stated in their UCAS. That's for undergraduate. For postgraduate, it depends on the type of the courses, because I mentioned just now there are a couple of deadlines applicable to postgraduate thought programs. So if it's stage admissions, the deadline will be stated on the offer letter. But if it's not stated, then the idea is that they should accept the offer by 4th of, in advance of 4th of September, because that is actually the deadline to request for CAS. So after students accepted their unconditional offer, pay their fee deposit, right, it could take about 5 working days to get access to the CAS application system, which is why they should arrange for that much earlier. Let me just show back the deadline. Yes, so that falls under the standard advisory key deadline here, as you can see. Apply for CAS number by 4th of September. So you should accept the offer way before that. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Dalila. I don't believe there are any more questions. If there's any more questions, could you please feel free to put them in the chat real quick? We'll just open the floor for a few more minutes to see if there's any more questions. Yeah, I think it's all great. There's no questions. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Myself, I'll be so happy to answer any of your questions. If not, there's one question. Is SPM English recognized?
Yes. So yes, Jessica, it was covered in my presentation just now, maybe because I kind of like speed through that section, so you kind of like lost it. But let me just go back to that slide. Because it can be quite, you know, tricky to, you know, make sure that you understand the requirement, you know, with all the changes that have been happening with SPM English. That's right. So yeah, basically if it's a year 2020 and before, we will be accepting their 1119. So we want to see the official certificate of the 1119. But if it's 2021 and after, we will be looking at their official SPM certificate, because we'll look at the SPM English grade. It must be at least B+ or above. So for SPM English qualification, the validity is only 5 years from the course start date at Sheffield. So let's say, for example, if you have applicant applying for postgraduate thought master courses this year entry, and but their SPM is dated, let's say 2015, so that has been dated more than 5 years. So if they have achieved grade C minimum in their 1119, they still have the official certificate. And if they have been undergoing, like, you know, study and employment continuously, no obvious gap, then they can use proof of ongoing use of English as well, but they must be able to show proof of ongoing use of English at each level of study and employment. So for example, like if they have been completing foundation degree and then they work until now, then they should be providing letters from all those levels. So yeah. Hope that
All right.
answers you.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Is there any other questions from the floor? All right, I think that concludes it. Thank you so much, Dalila, for today's session. It was really, really great. If I personally have any questions, I will find you.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, feel free to
So,
reach out.
yeah, thank you so much for everyone for coming today. So I will stop the recording right now. Thank you so much for this.